Swagatam everybody. Hello. Good. Should we start? I don't think we need that so much. Thank you. Swagatam everybody. Before we begin, I would ask Abhijata to light the lamp. All right. Now that the lamp is lighted, let us begin the program with invocation to Lord Patanjali. Let's do our regular invocation. And everybody will have, we've distributed 2 more mantras. We are going to recite those after our invocation. All right? So, let's get into Namaskar Mudra. Close your eyes, lift your chest up, roll your shoulders. Let's begin the invocation together. चित्तस्य पदेन वाचां मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोतं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि आबाहुपुरुषाकारं शङ्खचक्रासिधारिणं सहस्रशिरसं श्वेतं प्रणमामि पतञ्जलिम्. We will now chant Gurur Brahma. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Harihi Om. Now let us chant the 2 Subhashits written by Srinath in praise of our beloved Guruji. Let's do this together. Let's begin. Vaijñānikam pravaktruttva āsāneshu kalavidam yogabhyāse ca tattvajñam vandeham sundaram gurum yogavruksho hi lokesmin yat प्रेरणे वर्धितः योगाचार्य गुरो तुभ्यं सुंदराय नमो नमः हरिः ओम. All right, namaskar. On behalf of the Institute, I warmly welcome you all to the 51st annual day of RIMYI Iyengar Memorial Institute. I am Rashmi. Pardon? Higher. Zorar bolo. Louder. Asa pahiजे. Okay. Ata is visible? Audible? Okay, audible. All right. All right, so I will request before we start, just move ahead a little bit because there will be people joining in. Let's make place for them. Move forward, move forward. Come more forward. Move forward. This is not a splash zone, so move forward. Can you move it? I'm sorry. All right, let's begin. Many of us remember, so I'm going to be reading out my speech, and I'm actually thankful for that. Because initially I thought I'm just going to talk, and then I've realized that keeping a track on my emotions or where my thoughts will take me is going to be a difficult task. So I better read it. So this is what I'm going with, right? So many of us remember that last year's 50th annual day was not limited to a single celebration. It began with the 49th annual day and unfolded over an entire year. With each month almost filled with a lot of special activities, workshops, intensives, publications, talks, and so on. It carried a certain momentum, lifting and energizing our collective pursuit of yoga, right? In our culture, milestones are rarely marked by round numbers or round figures, So there is always a +1. So those who, as kids, we've always looked for that 1 rupee coin to be given with a gift that we are giving, so it's always going to be 501, 1001, 101. So, that 1 holds a very special value, right? So in the same sense, 50 plus 1, it is kind of a special, it completes the entire shubhata of, the divinity of this whole number. I've always thought, what is the reason behind that +1? I think it is about infinity, something to do with controlling your ego, always remembering that there is going to be a +1. No matter how rich you are, there's always going to be one person who's richer. No matter how smart you are, there's going to be another person who's a little bit more smarter, and so on and so forth. So there is always a +1. So the cycle needs to continue, it needs to go to infinity, right? In a similar manner, 51 becomes special for us. So let me talk about what this institute means to us. For many, it is home, not merely a physical structure, but a place of ashray. Ashray is shelter, of learning and support. Over time, it begins to feel alive with a character of its own. Not just walls and halls, but something with memory, spirit, and presence. Prashantji often reminds us that it is the punyai of our parents that shape the life we are able to live, where we are born, who we meet, who teaches us, and what we grow into as human beings. For many of us, being here, finding our way into this institute and continuing to return to it is part of that punyai. For me, definitely, that punyai is the reason I came to this place, and I continue to be here, in this temple of the body, mind, and spirit. The institute is not just a physical space for me, it is an emotion. Many of my memories are quietly spread across these halls and this structure. My father became associated with Guruji in around 1967. I was not born then, so I would not know exactly. He learnt with him, and he remained his shishya until he passed away in the year 2006. Like many of his generation, he did not speak much about himself or his struggles, or a praise, or even any explanation, or any kind of good thing or bad thing about his life. They would not talk too much about it. So in that sense, finding about his life and what he did was very limited, what we could discern. But one thing was clear: growing up, I really knew that the institute was the central part, or central theme to his daily life. Early morning classes, Sundays children's classes, evening classes during the week, come rain or sunshine, he would be here. Guru Purnima meant he would be gone almost the entire day, and he would be eating out, that is at the institute, with prasad, which he always insisted was the tastiest of all. Some of my earliest memories are of coming here as a child. On Sunday mornings, my sister and I would sit behind him on his Bajaj scooter, a long ride in the cold, half asleep, arriving in the institute. The big hall, this hall, felt enormous that time. Maruti seemed so high up that it felt like a picnic rather than a visit. And climbing up there was both thrilling and terrifying, because it didn't have those safety structures and the railings that it has now. In the children's classes, yes, we did a lot of asanas that we were asked to do, but honestly, it wasn't the asanas that held our attention. It was everything around them: cartwheels, running from one end of the hall to the other, children and young students attempting all kinds of shapes, all kinds of asanas, nakarasan jumps, handstands, bhujangasana, vrishchikasana. It felt like a joyful jungle. I remember, and of course, the Sheshasan ropes, climbing, swinging, and attempting all kinds of acrobatics on them. For us, the institute was a theme park. And I think my generation was quite content with these kinds of rides. I remember there was a green lawn right in front of Guruji's house, and it had a Peru is a guava. It had a Peru tree in that lawn. And trust me, I have never had sweeter Perus or guavas, that I've had from those trees, stealing one or two once in a while, but Guruji never complained. So, and now it's no longer there, but I'm sure it's attained moksha, being in the garden of Guruji, even as a tree. We do that in our culture, right? Even trees attain moksha. So I'm sure that is, it's somewhere in heaven also bearing sweet Perus. So as I grew older, that sense of play slowly transformed, but the attraction did not fade. The same place revealed a different kind of magic. I encountered teachers who would work not only on the body, but also on the mind, in ways I had never imagined possible. And I know that I'm not alone in this experience. Across generations, this institute has meant many things to many people. Parents, children, teachers, and students have all found their own relationship with it. Over time, the institute stops being just a place one visits. It becomes something that you belong to. The halls, the ropes, the props, the corners all seem to hold memory and intention. Over the years, the same spaces that once felt like a playground slowly became places of deeper inquiry. The teacher showed us how not only the body but the mind could be shaped, challenged, and refined. Sometimes when a class began and the teacher sat on the platform, I would find a line from one of my favorite songs from Billy Joel, singing. It was playing, it usually also still plays in my head. It says, "Sing us a song, you're the piano man. Sing us a song tonight. We're all in the mood for a melody and you've got us feeling all right." And truly, I found some of the most wonderful musicians, pianists, percussionists, violinists, vocalists, and even those who taught through silence, sitting on this platform. If you have ever had Geeta ji simply look at you, and you knew exactly what she meant, or what you were being asked to do, you understand that art. Many of us have felt this at some point, coming to class with doubts, aches, and just a sense of not knowing, do I want to attend class today? There's this ache. I don't know if I want to do this. And then finding that the practice somehow met us exactly where we are. More than once, it has felt as though the teaching arrived even before we knew what to ask. Moments like these remind us that yoga here has never been mechanical. It has always been attentive, responsive, and deeply human. If the walls, props, ropes, and the corners of this institute could speak, they would tell us countless stories, some serious, some humorous, some ingenious. Every brick seems to carry intention. Every prop seems to hold the samskara of Guruji's thought and care with which he created them. In that way, even today, they continue to teach what Guruji intended for us to learn from them. I have often thought of this institute as, kind of a rath or a chariot, where Guruji remains the Sarathi, guiding generations of students in their pursuit of knowledge and self-understanding. Just like a chariot, we have ropes and horses. It looks like a hall. We have Maruti on top. So, it is very much like that chariot. And just like that chariot, the institute carries both direction and protection. At its heart, this place continues to invite us not just to enter the building, but to enter more deeply within ourselves. During Guruji's 107th anniversary, birth anniversary celebrations, Abhijata began unfolding this inner journey through the Yoga Sutras in what she called the inner active sessions. These sessions approach the sutras not as distant philosophy, but as something to be observed directly, moment to moment. She guided us through the opening sutras, laying the foundation for understanding the mind, its movements, and the possibility of clarity. Today's session is a continuation of that exploration. As students of this institute, where yoga has always meant to be lived, questioned, and experienced, we are fortunate to have Abhijata guide us further. Not as a lecture to be consumed, but as an invitation to observe, reflect, and participate. So please keep your glasses and your phones ready. With that, I invite Abhijata to continue the interactive journey to help us look more closely into the workings of the Chitta. Welcome.
So as she said, this started on 14 December. Maybe some of you weren't there or maybe you've forgotten. So just a quick recap at where we stopped. So what we discussed on 14 December was how closely the phone and the mind can be referenced to each other. The body, the hardware, mind, the software. Vrittis are the background apps that keep running. Energy is the battery, and awareness is the signal. Like a phone, the mind runs constant background processes that drain energy, scatter attention, and distort perception. Yoga isn't about adding something new. It just slows down these processes so that clarity appears on its own. If you remember, Patanjali classified vrittis as, any of you who were there? Klishta and aklishta. Now the mind settles through processes, abhyasa and vairagya. Now, as the mind quietens, meditation deepens. And then Ishvara Pranidhana, devotion to Ishvara, can also bring the stillness. And once that is done, once the mind quietens, Pratyak Chetana, the inner awareness, the principle that is always present, reveals itself. Now let's move ahead. So what stands between us and Pratyak Chetana, the invisible source from which everything arises? Let's return to the image that we started off with, the phone. Think of it like this. If the phone is physically damaged, broken, unstable, no amount of supercharge or the best apps is going to work because the phone is damaged. So Vyadhi is the hardware glitch. It refers to pain, imbalance in the body, physical instability. So when this is unwell, the mind cannot hold a steady charge. That's Vyadhi. The next obstacle is Dhyana. You know, sometimes the phone is on, it's charged, but it doesn't respond, nothing happens. Sometimes it used to happen with our remotes and we would hit the TV remotes. We can't do that with the phones anymore. But that inner stagnation, that is Dhyana. It's not a lack of intelligence, it's just an inertia whereby we feel stuck. Samshaya, the signal drop. Now when a phone has no signal, it is charged, but calls don't go through, messages don't get sent, the battery still seems to drain. Okay, you're not using the phone, there's no signal, but the battery still drains. And that is samshaya, doubt. And by doubt, I don't mean the healthy inquiry, but the lingering, unresolved doubt. Will this work? Is this real? Will this really happen? When in such a doubt, nothing gets downloaded, nothing settles. Pramada, carelessness, heedlessness. We've all had these moments when we have looked back and we have thought, how did I miss that? What was I thinking? Why did it happen? It happened because we simply got carried away. We didn't use that part of the mind which checks, am I giving this the attention it needs? Now this, in a way, is subtle arrogance because we assume it is right. And this is not confidence, because confidence stays alert and responsive. Whereas by pramada, intelligence is present, but vigilance is absent. So that arrogance stops attention, and Patanjali says this also comes in the way of us and feeling that inner principle. Alasya, the quiet habit of holding back. Have you used your phone on power saving mode? Yeah? So now when the phone is on 5%, 10%, we don't have an option. But have you tried using the power saving mode when it's at 90, 95%? You haven't tried? You should. Try it. You wouldn't like it. Yeah, everything is dimmed. You don't like the experience. You just try playing a video on a power saving mode. Within a few seconds, the color drops. It no longer holds you. The experience is reduced. So we don't enjoy that mode on our phones, but with ourselves, we do that. With ourselves, we just tolerate that. For example, in the asana practice, the body is capable, the breath is fine, the moment is there, and yet we move as if we are conserving energy. Half stepping, half staying there in our comfort zone, small, safe, as though we are on reserve. This is the pattern of the mind. And this alasya will come in the way between us and pratyak chetana. Avirati. Now when too many apps are open on our phones, the battery drains. Yes, you've all experienced that. When too many apps are open, the battery drains, whether it's notifications, it's games, it's feeds that keep coming in. Each one is very small, but put together, they exhaust the system. The mind works the same way. Each craving, each impulse, every search for pleasure puts attention outward. Okay, so food, entertainment, desire, individually these are small things. They seem harmless. But when the mind keeps chasing these, it has no energy left to turn inward. That's how that also becomes an obstacle. Bhranti Darshana, the malware app. Sometimes a belief enters our system. It looks useful, it seems true. But like an app that may promise efficiency but quietly slows our system down, a Bhranti Darshana, a distorted view, troubles us. Say, for example, someone speaks quickly or reacts, and then we feel, oh, they are being rude to me. Reality may be simpler. Maybe they are stressed, maybe it was distraction, maybe it's awareness. But once this story is believed, the mind reacts as if it is true, and our irritation follows, and our battery drains. Viparyaya is different. Do you remember Viparyaya that we discussed on 14 December? So Viparyaya is different because it completely turns things around, whereas Bhranti Darshana is a distorted view of things. So even Abhyasa and Vairagya, even in the pursuit of these, this comes in the way. alabdha bhumikatva, anavasthitatva. Sometimes we try to install an app. It says 10%, 11%, 12%, it goes on, and then it says no, failed. Now, maybe because the system is not ready, maybe the storage is not there, but because of some reason, the app doesn't get downloaded. And even if it gets downloaded, it says 100%, and you may open the app, and then it closes down, because the base was not ready to hold it. So these are also obstacles in our sadhana of abhyasa and vairagya. Now, how exactly do they interfere? You know, each of these antarayas has its own pathogenesis. The specific way in which it troubles the mind, the specific way with which it disturbs our system. Now consider vyadhi, an illness. Now when you are ill and somebody knocks on your door for help, do you have the bandwidth to help them? No. When you are in pain, there is no freedom for you to help someone else. And this is not just with reference to someone else, this is external. But even for the mind to turn internal, once any of these antarayas is present in us, it does not allow us the freedom, it does not give us the ease to look within. All right? So the antarayas, each of these has its own pathogenesis, has its own method by which it plays truant and stops us from experiencing that pratyak chetana. Then Patanjali says, these antarayas, they come with other things. These 9 obstacles that I listed come with other things. Dukha, daurmanasya, angame jayatva, shvasa prashvasa, meaning the words seem familiar. Dukha, okay? Daurmanasya, emotional cloudiness. For no reason, you feel the mind has lost its shine. This accompanies the antarayas. Angame jayatva, the body, there is physical restlessness. The body won't settle, it seems jittery. The breath will not settle, the breathing is spasmodic. So these things accompany the antarayas. And now having diagnosed these obstacles, Patanjali gives the remedy, the universal reset button, the one practice that clears all noise and restores the system. A solution so simple that it almost feels like Patanjali is joking with us. Tat pratishedhartham ekatattva bhyasaha. So many problems that come in the way, but the one answer to all of that is ekatattva bhyasaha. Practice one thing, not 9 different things for 9 different problems. He calls this abhyasa, bringing the mind again and again until it learns to stay. This ekatattva, it's not one technique, but it is one through line through which the mind can be held without slipping. For one person, it may be the breath. For another person, it may be a mantra. For someone else, it may be an inquiry, devotion, and inner witnessing. The forms differ, but the principle does not. Gather the mind, give it a home to rest in, and then the attention stops scattering. Now, something extraordinary happens when we address this with ekatattva bhyasaha. This pratyak chetana, this inner subtle electricity that sustains us, we feel it. Consider electricity in our homes. Consider electricity here. The lights are on, the fan is on, the mic, the audio system is working. Each of these are working in different forms, okay? Light, fan, audio. This is working in different forms, but the electricity behind each of that is the same. You get what I'm saying? So the same electricity is flowing through each one. In the same way, Patanjali points towards a realization. Each one of us expresses life differently. Our personalities, emotions, thoughts, and actions vary like these different devices or appliances. But the pratyak chetana, the inner force that animates us, is the same current that flows through all human beings. For example, consider you're visiting a foreign land, okay? Everything looks different. Say you're in the immigration line and you feel tensed. What's going to happen? Everybody seems different. It's a language you don't understand, people you don't know. And then suddenly, somewhere in the distance, you see someone holding the same passport as yours. The moment you see that, there is a certain connection you feel with the person. Why foreign? Even within our own country, you go to a different state where the language seems alien to us, not natural. You don't get the words. Everything seems different. And suddenly you meet someone who speaks the same language. You suddenly feel a connection. So the low-grade intensity in the body, anxiety in the body, that I don't belong here, suddenly vanishes once you know there is a connection between you and them. This sense of quiet kinship that settles in, and there is this sense of separation softens. Now, this familiarity that is felt when the antarayas are addressed, met, worked with, and steadied, pratyak chetana is felt. And once we recognize the life in me and the life in another are not separate, this kinship naturally arises. So now go on to the Yoga Sutras, the scan page. Let's recite Sutra 30 to 32. Anybody wants the QR code, or you have it? Number 30. Vyadhi, you can say after me. Sthana, Samshaya, Pramada, Alasya, Avirati, Bhranti Darshana, Alabdha Bhumikatva, Anavasthitattvani, Chitta Vikshepaha, Te Antarayaha, Dukkha, Daurmanasya, Angame Jayatva, Shvasa Prashvasa, Vikshepa, Sahabhuvaha, Tat Pratishedhartham, Ekatatvabhyasaha. Okay, now from here, Patanjali introduces the next brilliant step, the emotional architecture of a steady mind. He offers a simple but a profound sutra. Maitri Karuna Mudita Upekshanam, Sukha Dukkha Punya Punya Vishayanam, Bhavanatas Chitta Prasadanam. Now, 4 emotional attitudes that keep the mind calm, clear, and luminous. The first of this is Maitri. Now, Maitri is often translated as friendliness, but this friendliness barely touches the depth of Maitri. It's not a social skill. It's a shift in our fundamental posture towards life. We live in a time where we may have thousands of friends online, and yet we feel strangely disconnected. We react, we like, we follow, yet somewhere deep inside, we sense that we are performing an action instead of resting in it. Maitri is the opposite of this performance. It's the quiet, grounded feeling. I belong to this world, and the world belongs to me. From this place, another person's joy no longer feels separate from mine. This is belongingness, not as an idea, but as a felt truth. It's the emotional equivalent of, say, discovering that all devices in this room are running on the same Wi-Fi. Okay? If all of our devices were running on the same Wi-Fi password here, we are all running on the same Pratyak Chetana here. That's why the ancient prayer Sahana Vavatu fits beautifully here. The prayer doesn't say, may I be protected, may I be nourished, may I grow. It says, Saha, Sahana Vavatu, Sahanau Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, may we be protected together. May we be nourished, grow in strength together. There is no isolated I anywhere. The prayer refuses to imagine growth as a solo project. It assumes relationship, shared ground, and shared unfolding. That we-ness, okay, we, us, That implicit belonging is the heart of Maitri. That's the emotional DNA of Maitri. Not connection performed, but connection assured. And hence, Patanjali places Maitri towards those in Sukha, because someone who is in Dukkha, someone who is in a sorrowful state, there is a natural response. We naturally soften in front of them. But Maitri, friendliness towards those in Sukha, in joy, demands an inner abundance from us. If Maitri is the feeling, Karuna is its first natural expression. When Maitri settles in the system, something shifts. The mind becomes open to another. Not out of duty, not out of moral pressure, not out of, oh, I must do this, oh, I should help. It's none of that. It's just that the boundary between you and me has softened. That openness itself is Karuna, compassion. Okay? Otherwise, we think Maitri is friendliness towards joy. Karuna is compassion, that is the next emotional behavior. Patanjali is not talking about behavior. Okay? It's a continuum. Like a phone that is already connected to a shared hotspot, it doesn't decide to transmit data. Once it is connected on a hotspot, it naturally happens. And compassion in this sense is Maitri that moves through pain. It's that quiet strength of the mind which is stable enough in itself to make space for another person's struggle. Okay, the strength of the mind which is stable enough in itself to make space for another's struggle. Karuna is participation, instinctive movement of the heart towards dukkha. Mudita. Mudita is a joy that has no agenda. It's translated as happiness, being happy for someone else. But mudita is something bigger. It's something more special. If my child tops the class, I'm happy. My friend gets promoted, I'm happy. My team wins, I'm happy. In all of this, it comes back to mine. Okay? It's a belonging with me. It's tied to my attachment, my identity, my circle of people. So it rises because their success reflects something onto me. Mudita is something which is completely different. It is gladness without ownership, joy without a personal stake, a spontaneous upliftment that arises simply because goodness has happened somewhere in the universe. When Maitri is alive, the first one, when Maitri is alive, our inner frequency aligns with the world. You know, we like it when we see the Wi-Fi bars full. You know, one arc missing and we are not happy. So now Maitri is all of these bars are full, and when that happens, we just feel connected. Mudita happens because of that connection. It's not I am happy for you, it is your goodness moves me. That upliftment. Upeksha. Now the fourth one. It's often translated as indifference, but the word points to something a little more subtler. Upa-iksha, meaning to sit, to see closely, to see clearly without distortion. It's not coldness, it's not just indifference that is withdrawal or walking away. It's a clear, non-judgmental seeing, especially in the presence of apunya, harmful actions, unskillful actions. Patanjali is direct here. He says, your mind need not lose its balance because someone else has lost theirs. You do not know their full story. You do not know their fear, ignorance, intention. We know nothing about it. So why let your inner battery drain because someone else's system is overheating? Everyone must walk their own sadhana. Their actions are theirs to understand and resolve. This upeksha protects us from two traps. Number one, judging. What do we do when we judge? We reduce a person to their mistake, absorbing, taking their turbulence into ourselves as anger or irritation. Think of it this way. When someone's phone is overheating, or when someone's device is overheating, we don't plug our device into theirs. We don't do that. We keep our system stable and allow theirs to cool in their own time. This is upeksha, the space to witness another person's confusion without being pulled into it. while still holding Maitri underneath all of this. It's not disconnecting from people, it is stepping out of their turbulence so our mind stays quiet, calm, and useful. Let's recite this sutra because it's a significant sutra. Number 33. Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekshanam, Sukha Dukha, Punya Punya, Vishayanam, Bhavanataha, Chitta Prasadanam. Now, for Chitta Prasadanam, okay, the Chitta being quiet, calm, peaceful, Patanjali offers different approaches. If working with these emotions don't help, he suggests other methods. It's a simple physiological hack. When emotions get loud, we've all experienced this, when emotions get loud, thinking doesn't help much. You agree? Yeah? That is because the emotional center is at the back brain and our cognitive thinking happens in the front. So this is the survival center, which is fast, reactive, and this is the thoughtful center. And by default, the wiring is such that by default, this is the master. If this says something, this does not immediately listen to it. And here Patanjali says, Prachardana vidaranabhyam va pranasya. When the mind is overwhelmed, switch to the body. It will, body meaning a slow, long exhalation, the pause after that, is like letting warm air out of an overheated system. This isn't ritual. Science knows this today. A long exhalation, scientifically speaking, sends a signal up the vagus nerve, which tells here, all is well. Okay? When this says all is well, this will quieten down on its own. So the blood flow itself shifts from here to here. And Patanjali said this thousands of years ago, Prachardana vidaranabhyam va pranasya. Now, another method. Vishayavati va pravrittir utpanna manasa sthiti nibandhani. A sense perception, okay? A sense perception. You see, you hear, you feel, you smell. A sense perception, if it is steady, clear, and vivid, it can also stabilize the mind. With limited insight, we sometimes feel senses are the problem. They are not the real obstacle. The problem is not with the senses. The problem is with the restlessness of the senses, because we can use these sensual perceptions to calm us down. Look at a Deepak Jyoti, okay? You look at a Deepak Jyoti, a flame in your place of worship from the lamp, and suddenly calmness may come. Listen to a Tanpura drone, something settles. Or just sitting on the shore and watching the waves, this pattern can take the mind to stillness. Even the fragrance of the agarbatti, the incense stick, something inside aligns. So Patanjali says these senses are not always for pulling you outward, it can anchor you inward. A sense object that becomes so stable, so precise, so uncluttered that the mind locks onto it and stops wandering. Vishoka va jyotishmati. It's not imagination, it's a deliberate shift of emotional frequency. When the mind holds on to an object of brightness, its own fog begins to dim. Not just not in the literal sense. Think of a moment when you're touched by something higher. Maybe it's thinking of Hanuman's love, or when I am in stress, Bhima Rupi it just comes for a lot of us that is there. Even this line from Bhima Rupi Maharudra Stotra, Anupasuni Brahmanda Evada Hota Jatase. Before your radiance, the entire universe shrinks to the size of a mustard. And when this settles into us, it suddenly feels inside like everything is lighter. You know, scientists who've gone in space, they have shared their feelings of being in the spaceship, being in their rockets, and looking at the Earth from a distance. Looking at the Earth from a distance, and they get this feeling, they say that we are all one. Because when we are looking at the whole Earth from a distance, brotherhood is not an imagination, they feel it. Okay? So, a heaviness that loosens by this thought. This is not a religious sentiment, it is emotional neuroscience hidden in poetry. Vitaraga Vishayam Va Chittam. Up till now, Patanjali has been giving methods that work inside us. My breath, my devotion, my inner light, my emotional attitude. Now he offers a completely different doorway. If your own mind is too turbulent, think of the stability of a mind that is already calm. Another mind that is calm and that can quieten you. So contemplating on someone who's gone beyond raga, beyond attachment, beyond the cravings. Such a mind has a cooling presence, says Patanjali. This is not just about hero worship. It's resonance, like a tuning fork that begins to vibrate when another fork of the same natural frequency is stuck nearby. And modern neuroscience again supports this. We have what are called mirror neurons. Have you all experienced when someone near you is crying, your eyes well up, you feel the heaviness, okay? So there are these neurons in us that just mirror the feeling of another person. And Patanjali says, if your network is shaky, connect to a stronger one. Like sometimes the phone asks us, switch to a better network, and we just instinctively type yes, tap on the yes. That can happen with our mind too. Swapna Nidra Jnana Lambanamba. There are two states that we enter regularly. Swapna, the dream, deep sleep, Nidra. If we can learn to notice and extract the quiet intelligence hidden in those states, the mind can become steady. Not by analyzing every dream or not by looking for meaning behind each of our dreams, but by recognizing the fact that, or by seeing how the mind behaves when you are not interfering. Deep sleep reveals silence without effort. Dream reveals imagination without strain. Both carry a flavor of clarity, unforced clarity, and that can be used as an anchor point. It's like even our phone, when we are not using, when we are asleep, it's quiet, it resets, it repairs the RAM, it clears background processes, all of that happens for us. In the same way, like the system does it for the phone, the sleep does it for us. They are our inner diagnostics that can show how the mind can feel like if it is not being pushed, pulled, or overheated. And Patanjali says, use that memory, use that impression, hold on to that flavor of steadiness. Yatha Abhimata Dhyanadva. He ends this series with something breathtaking. Pick what works for you. Okay? Not what worked for your teacher, what works for tradition, what steadies your mind. This is Patanjali, I feel, at one of the places where he is most radical. If something brings you clarity, let that be your anchor. It could be a mantra, a symbol, a feeling, a teaching, a landscape, a sound. Anything that naturally gathers our mind into the steadiness that, in the context of what we've been talking, whatever is that, choose that for you. Let's recite this whole series, starting from number 34. It starts at 33 with Maitri Karuna, but since we have done that, let's go to number 34. Prachardana Vidharanabhyam Va Pranasya Vishayavati Va Pravrittirutpanna Manasaha Sthiti Nibandhini Vishoka Va Jyotishmati Vita, let's do it together. Vitaraga Vishayam Va Chittam Swapna Nidra Jnana Lambanam Va Yatha Abhimatha Dhyanadva. Now Patanjali goes on to say what this steadiness actually does to us. Now think of a call, WhatsApp call, normal call. Think of a call when you are in a poor network zone. When the system is unstable, even a single word, hi, hello, doesn't get transmitted. But when the system is clean, when the network is strong, It can handle a video conference, a large file. All of this can be done with ease. Likewise, Patanjali says, a steady mind becomes capable, utterly capable. It can zoom into the atomic level. Okay, atomic level meaning the subtlest sensation, the tiniest shift in breath, the first flicker of an emotion. It can do all this without getting pixelated. And with the same clarity, the mind can zoom out to the cosmic level. Nothing is too small, nothing is too big. It becomes a lens in perfect focus, able to see a grain of sand and the whole shoreline with the same quiet precision. Now, my deeper question here, once the mind becomes steady, what does it actually become? Think of it like a nation that has just mastered nuclear energy. The achievement itself isn't the destination, it's just the threshold. The real question is, how will this energy be used? What is that nation going to do with its nuclear power? Let's get back to the phone because we haven't taken our phone out in this session. Open your camera. Not in the selfie mode, but just point it at something. Okay, point it at something. You know there are filters that you can use? Those, like those 3 circles that you see when you open the camera. Now the moment you open this filter, just select the filters. The same object that you're trying to photograph appears differently. Just look at it. With your hand, you need to scroll through the different filters that are there. If anybody has gotten it and your neighbor hasn't gotten it, please show them. Turn on any filter. Do you see how the same object appears different with each filter? Yeah? The image instantly changes. It's the same object, the same light around, the same environment. But because the lens has a layer on it, the world that you see is no longer the world as it is. We all know this feeling even without cameras. At a Maharashtrian function, you expect puran poli, batata bhaji, masala bhat. In Tamil Nadu, how can there be a function without sadam, without kodambu sadam, rice, rasam rice, curd rice, pal paisam? Okay? Now every culture has its foods that seem essential, that are essential. Without them, an event just doesn't feel complete. These are harmless examples of how our mind carries its own preset filters. Cultural filters, emotional filters, preference filters, expectation filters, attachment filters, insecurity filters, the list goes on. +1, as Rashmi would say. We don't see the world, we see our version of the world. Patanjali opens something very powerful for us here. Kshinavritter abhijatasya manehe grahitr grahana grahyeshu tatstha tadanjanata samapattihi. Patanjali says, when the mind becomes quiet and clear, like a flawless crystal. Now, before going any further, let us notice what is always present in every experience. You're hearing me, you know you're here, you feel the mat. So there is the one who experiences a thing, okay? I am here. So that I that experiences it is the grahitra. The experience itself, grahana, you're hearing me, you're seeing me. The grahana, the experience itself, and grahya, what is experience, the hall that you see, the sound that you hear. Now, every moment of experience contains these 3 things. Now Patanjali becomes poetic. He says, a perfect, flawless crystal. Now, to make you understand this, think of this crystal. If it's placed on a red cloth, it appears red. If it's placed on a blue cloth, it appears blue. The crystal has no color of its own, but it only takes what lies beneath it, provided it is flawless. But imagine a stained crystal, just to get a comparison. Imagine a stained crystal. If you place it on red, it will probably appear brownish. If it's a scratched crystal, there is a haze and there is a blur. The object hasn't changed, the crystal has. And Patanjali implies this, that the mind works like this. If the mind is scratched by fear or cracked by past wounds, fogged by assumptions, everything that we see is altered. But when the mind becomes kshina vritti, when its disturbances thin down, it becomes like Abhijata Mani, a flawless gem. Then something extraordinary happens. Grahitra, Grahana, Grahya. These three aspects, they come into effortless alignment, and this state is samapatti. So what is contemplated upon is not influenced by the crystal at all. That is, it is not influenced by the mind. What is, is. Now, this state of samapatti doesn't come automatically. It is not at the snap of a button. It happens gradually. The first stage is savitarka samapatti. Tatra shabdartha jnana vikalpaihi sankirna savitarka samapattihi. Think of a simple everyday situation. Say you meet someone for the first time. You hear their name, you get acquainted. You hear the name, okay, shabda, the word. You register their actual presence as a person who's standing in front of you, someone who's here now, that is the artha. Then you form an understanding. Oh, this person is so-and-so, my senior, they are kind, they are working here, they are helpful, they are not helpful, whatever. It is your understanding of that, the jnana of it. Now, without the name and understanding, their presence would not settle. It would pass by just like any other face in the crowd. The mind needs shabda and jnana in the beginning to hold and stabilize the artha, that lived immediate reality of the object. The same happens in meditation. Let's say we are meditating on dear Guruji. Step 1, we bring Guruji to our minds. Step 2, three things appear. Shabda, artha, jnana. Shabda, the word Guruji. Artha, Guruji, who was. Jnana, your understanding of Guruji. My Guru, he did this for you, he helped you do this, helped you learn that. That is your understanding of Guruji. In the beginning, all these three arise together. The mind is active because it's labeling. Oh, Guruji did this for me. Okay, so we are labeling with our minds, we are perceiving, we are understanding. This is savitarka samapatti because all these things are happening. In the next stage, the mind deepens. What happens is smriti parishuddhi happens, memory gets purified. Now, once memory gets purified, it stops throwing these labels or these hashtags on the object. Now, because memory quietens down, swarupa shunya, the sense of I am, swarupa, that sense fades out. It's no longer I am seeing, I am meditating, I am experiencing, because the I am quietens down. The mind is present, but it is transparent. When this happens, artha matra nirbhasa, what remains is only the object. There is no name, there is no interpretation, there is no mediator, just Guruji's presence in the mind. This would be nirvitarka samapatti. Okay? Now Patanjali doesn't stop here. He says this inward movement still continues. Now the Chandogya Upanishad gives a lovely image which will help us understand these sutras. Consider a banyan seed. The banyan tree is so huge. Consider a banyan seed. It's solid, it's visible. You break it to see from where does this tree come. Inside, there are tiny particles. Oh, so it is from this tiny particle. You break it further. There is some jelly-like substance. Oh, is it from this that the tree comes? You break that further and you see nothing. Okay? So this whole banyan tree, this huge banyan tree, comes from what seems to be nothing. Likewise, so in matter, there is gross matter, banyan tree, subtle, the seed, subtler, the jelly-like substance, still nothing, the unmanifest. Likewise, Patanjali says, etayaiva savichara nirvichara cha sukshma vishaya vyakhyata. From gross objects, the mind enters subtle objects, sukshma vishaya. Sukshma vishayatvam chalinga paryavasanam. And finally, in this process, it reaches alinga, the unmanifest. This is the process, the journey that Patanjali is opening out for us, made possible by a mind that has become as clear as a flawless crystal. Ta eva sabijaha samadhi. All these are samadhi with seed. With this one line, Patanjali draws a clear separation. He says everything that we have spoken about so far, Savitarka, Nirvitarka, Savichara, Nirvichara, gross objects, subtle objects, up to what seems nothing, all of this is still Sabija Samadhi, meaning it is Samadhi with a seed. What does that mean? It means the mind is holding on to something. Even if the object becomes extremely subtle, even if it almost disappears, even if it feels like nothing, there is still an object, a trace, a support, a point of focus. Let's take a simple example. Say you're in Janu Shirshasana and you set the timer. How many minutes do you set a timer for in Janu Shirshasana? 1 minute, 5 minutes? Okay, so 5 minutes. Now we do the pose, we adjust the pose, we wait. Maybe we go quiet in Janu Shirshasana. But we continue to wait because 5 minutes are yet to pass. Okay? The bell will ring. The thought may not disturb us. We may be in Janu Shirshasana, assuming, okay? The thought may keep coming to you. Or if you go beyond that, the thought may not come to you, but it is still there because you're still waiting for the 5th minute. Now imagine the same Janu Shirshasana and there is no timer. There is no duration to complete. There is no bell to wait for. Just the pose. Just you being there. That difference, waiting for the bell versus not waiting at all. As long as the mind has an anchor, even a very subtle one, Samadhi is still Sabija. Samadhi is deep here. It is refined here. It is luminous here. But the mind is still leaning on to something. And Patanjali names this clearly, not to diminish its depth, but to show us precisely that the seed is still there. Let's recite the sutras 40 to 46. So the mind that becomes so clear, what does the nation do with that nuclear power? Paramanu, Paramamahatvantosya, Vashikaraha, Kshinavrittehe, Abhijatasya iva, Manehe, Grahitr, Grahana, Grahyeshu, Tatstha, Tadanjanata, Samapattihi, Tatra, Shabda, Artha, Jnana, Vikalpaihi, Sankirna, Savitarka, Samapattihi, Smriti Parishuddhau, Swarupa Shunyaiva, Arthamatra, Nirbhasa, Nirvitarka, Etayaiva, Savichara, Nirvichara cha, Sukshma Vishaya, Vyakhyata, Sukshma Vishayatvam cha, Sukshma Vishayatvam cha, Alinga Paryavasanam, Ta eva Sabijaha Samadhihi. Now, so we've come till Nirvichara. When this Nirvichara, okay, subtle, this subtle Samapatti also, when this becomes effortless, when this becomes clear, an inner grace arises naturally. The light of awareness flows in freely, unobstructed. Nothing is forced, nothing is created. The mind simply stops influencing, the mind simply stops blocking. This quiet inner radiance, this serenity, this clarity of being is Adhyatma Prasada. Now, do you know what we call knowing never actually meets reality? Take Paschimottanasana. How many of you think you're good at Paschimottanasana? Okay. Okay. Should have chosen Tadasana maybe. Now, the moment we bend forward into Paschimottanasana, the moment we bend forward, the mind moves. It says, oh, I'm stiff today. It compares this bend with what we did in the past. It measures how far the hands reach. It names the sensation. It's a stretch, it's a fee, it's a pain, it's good, it's bad. Past impressions color this Paschimottanasana. You may say, I've always been bad at forward bends, or I have worked hard for forward bends, whatever. Language frames it. This is tight, this is uncomfortable. And habit decides what matters, how it looks, how deep it is, whether it matches an image. But none of this is the posture itself. The actual experience is just that. You there, your sensation there, your body there, your gravity there. It's fresh moment to moment. It's a bit like our face. We've all come fresh for the function. You would all say your face is clean? Yes? Oh, okay. Now, do you know there are probably at this point thousands of tiny mites that are moving on your face? There are thousands of mites that are moving on your face that thankfully we can't see and the others can't see. Okay? Now, what we call reality and what is reality are different. We see the sun as yellow, we think it is yellow, but in reality, all the colors together, it is white. We see a star tonight, but in reality, that star at this point may not even be there, because what we see as the star now is the light that left the star probably millions of years ago. So what we see is where that star was so many million years ago and not where it is now. There are sounds all around us that we can't hear. Ultrasonic, infrasonic vibrations exist, but our ears are not equipped to perceive them, to hear them. For example, dogs hear things which we can't. Elephants, they communicate using low-frequency mumbles that can reach 20 kilometers. Okay? And we can't hear that. Our perception is always filtered by our senses, our mind, our memory. Reality itself, on the other hand, is happening directly, independent of what we label, what we judge, or what we remember. As long as the experience is filtered through this common mind, it is mediated. Shruta, Anumana. Patanjali names these familiar modes of knowing. Shruta, we know by hearing something about someone, about something. Someone tells us something, we understand it. It may be accurate, it may be beautiful, but it is still borrowed. Anumana, knowledge gained through inference. We reason, we infer, we conclude. It feels more personal, okay? But it is still our mental construction. Both are useful, both are necessary, but neither is direct. That is why Patanjali says, Shruta Anumana Prajnabhyam Anya Vishaya Vishesharthatvat. There is a different kind of knowing that is very different in its domain, and it is different in its certainty, because it's just direct perception. Ritambhara Tatra Prajna, he says. When with Nirvichara Samadhi, when the mind becomes utterly still, and when the mind no longer interferes, a different kind of knowing arises. This knowing is not filtered through memory, language, interpretation. It is immediate. And Patanjali calls this Ritambhara Prajna, wisdom that carries truth. The mental machinery that usually stands between the knower and the known falls silent. Knower and being known are no longer separated by our thought. Its truth is not inferred, truth is not remembered. This is Anya Vishaya. It is a different order of knowing altogether. And Vishesharthatva, meaning a certainty that is so distinct that no indirect means can ever produce it. Tajya samskaro anya samskara pratibandhi. He says, the impression that is born from this truth blocks all other impressions. Think of our old landline phones. When we were speaking with someone on a landline phone and somebody else was trying to call us, what did they hear? Beep, engaged. Okay, the engaged tone, it's engaged. Nothing else can connect onto that call, because it's not that the phone is rejecting calls, this phone is occupied. In the same way, when the mind is occupied by Ritambhara Prajna, a new samskara is formed, which is steady, which is luminous, which is grounded in truth. And at this point, other impressions simply fall apart. They do not get through, not by effort or suppression, they just can't get through because the system is already connected to something stronger. Let's go to Sutra 47. So until 46, we saw what was Sabija Samadhi. 47. Nirvichara Vaisharadye Adhyatma Prasadaha Ritambhara Tatra Prajna Shruta Anumana Prajnabhyam Anya Vishaya Vishesharthatvat Tajja Samskaraha Anya Samskara Pratibandhi. Now, there is something beyond even this. Okay? Finally, Patanjali goes further through the last one. He says, Tasyapi nirodhe sarva nirodhan nirbijaha samadhihi. Now, eventually, even this samskara which I told you about, even that is restrained. Now, when that is restrained, awareness does not collapse, awareness does not fade. It remains fully present without being directed at anything in particular. Earlier, a refined understanding steadied the mind by preventing other impressions from getting in. But now, even that stabilizing factor is no longer needed. Nothing needs to be held in place. Nothing needs to be excluded. The mind just abides in stillness, not through effort, but simply because there is no longer a cause for movement. This is Nirbija Samadhi, a state that is without any seed, where nothing further needs to arise. The call is complete, the line is still open and silent. The mind is completely full, yet unbound. A boundless, luminous silence. And that concludes the first chapter. Let's recite the last sutra, number 51. Tasyapi nirodhe sarva nirodhan nirbijaha samadhihi iti samadhi padaha. Do you want to go through the recitation of the first chapter? We still have some time. Yeah? Do we do it together now? So we start from page 2, which says Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Samadhi Padaha. Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Samadhi Padaha. We are doing it together. No, we are doing it together. We'll go, because it's there in English also for those who can't read the Devanagari, Sanskrit. Let's begin. Atha Yoganushasanam. Now I'll be quiet. I'll be quiet, restrained, so your call gets through. Number 2, Sutra number 2. Number 3. Next one. Vrittayaha panchatayaha klishtaha pramana viparyaya vikalpa nidra smritayaha pratyakshanumana pramanani viparyayo mithyagnanam matadrupa pratishtham shabdagnananupati vastushunyo vikalpaha abhava pratyayalambana vrittirnidra anubhuta vishaya sampramoshaha smritihi abhyasa vairagyabhyam tannirodhaha tatra sthitau yatnobhyasaha satu dirghakala nairantarya sat सत्कारासेवितो दृढभूमिः दृष्टानुश्रविकविषयवितृष्णस्य वशीकारसंज्ञा वैराग्यं तत्परं पुरुषख्यातेर्गुणवैतृष्ण्यम् वितर्क विचार आनन्दास्मितारूपानुगमात् सम्प्रज्ञातः विराम प्रत्ययाभ्यासपूर्वः संस्कारशेषोऽन्यः भव प्रत्ययो विदेह प्रकृतिलयानां श्रद्धा वीर्य स्मृति समाधि प्रज्ञापूर्वक इतरेषां तीव्र संवेगानाम् आसन्नः मृदु मध्याधिमात्रत्वात् ततोपि विशेषः ईश्वर प्रणिधानाद्वा क्लेशकर्म विपाकाशयैरापरामृष्टः पुरुषविशेष ईश्वरः तत्र निरतिशयं सर्वज्ञबीजं स एष पूर्वेषामपि गुरुः कालेनानवच्छेदात् तस्य वाचकः प्रणवः तज्जपस्तदर्थभावनं ततः प्रत्यक्षेतनाधिगमोऽप्यन्तरायाभावश्च व्याधिस्त्यानसंशयप्रमादालस्याविरति भ्रान्तिदर्शन अलब्धभूमिकत्व अनवस्थितत्वानि चित्तविक्षेपास्तेऽन्तरायाः दुःखदौर्मनस्याङ्गमे जयत्व श्वासप्रश्वासा विक्षेपसह भुवः तत्प्रतिषेधार्थम् एकतत्त्वाभ्यासः मैत्री करुणा मुदितोपेक्षाणां सुख दुःख पुण्यापुण्यविषयाणां भावनातश्चित्तप्रसादनं प्रच्छर्दनविधारणाभ्यां वा प्राणस्य विषयवती वा प्रवृत्तिरुत्पन्ना मनसः स्थितिनिबन्धिनी विशोका वा ज्योतिष्मती वीतरागविषयं वा चित्तं स्वप्ननिद्राज्ञानालम्बनं वा यथाभिमतध्यानाद्वा परमाणुपरममहत्त्वान्तोऽस्य वशीकारः क्षीणवृत्तेरभिजातस्येव मणेः ग्रहीतृग्रहणग्राह्येषु तत्स्थतदञ्जनता समापत्तिः तत्र शब्दार्थज्ञानविकल्पैः संकीर्णा सवितर्का समापत्तिः स्मृतिपरिशुद्धौ स्वरूपशून्येवार्थमात्रनिर्भासा निर्वितर्का एतयैव सविचारा निर्विचारा च सूक्ष्मविषया व्याख्याता सूक्ष्मविषयत्वं चालिङ्गपर्यवसानं ता एव सबीजः समाधिः निर्विचारवैशारद्येऽध्यात्मप्रसादः ऋतंभरा तत्र प्रज्ञा श्रुतानुमानप्रज्ञाभ्याम् अन्यविषया विशेषार्थत्वात् तज्ज संस्कारोऽन्यसंस्कारप्रतिबन्धी तस्यापि निरोधे सर्वनिरोधान्निर्बीजः समाधिः इति समाधिपादः. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.